I am Ramona. Welcome back to the Smell of Logic channel. And today's Reddit stories are Encounters with Spirits, Part 1. Quite a few of these over on Reddit, subreddits, and all those little things. But before we get started, if you enjoy coloring or you know someone who does, or if you just want to read something new and different, check out my Amazon authors page. There are links. There is a link in the description of every single video. Um, just go check it out. New coloring books are released every week. Uh, Novels are a little bit older. There's some kids stuff over there too. So just a little bit of everything. Trying to dabble and stuff. But you came here for videos, so here we go for stories and encounters with spirits. Ready? Story number 1. Whenever it gets dark in my room, I can see and sense energies floating around. This first started last December during my spiritual awakening. I don't seem to be able to communicate with them in any way. Maybe this comes later. And they're not bound to my house either. I saw them during a sleepover at my friend's place as well. I've started taking photos and video, but to no avail. Either way, what matters is that I know what I'm seeing and that they're friendly. They're just there, watching over me. Story 2. I've been going through a really difficult year for many reasons. A very hard life, to be honest. I am 34 years old. A few days ago, I went to stay with a friend for a couple of days. I met his neighbor. My friend and his neighbor were casually talking about recent experiences they had together about spirits and the spirit realm. Absolutely insane details. I've always been a pretty open-minded person, but I definitely did not believe them. It was extremely far-fetched. They told me they had sound recordings of the things that they've experienced. This neighbor had paranormal equipment. I can't remember all the names of this hardware, but I will be learning soon. One thing he had was an EVP spirit box radio. We decided to try it together. I went out I went into it with some doubt. He turned it on with the radio signal, nice, but then we started hearing some stuff, then a few voices at once. I was nervous and surprised. The neighbor said to them, "Is anyone there?" We are positive energy humans on Earth, hoping that anyone that would like to reach out to us and give us some positivity and light energy. A voice started mentioning personal specifics about me. Without me telling you the whole thing, he said a lot more to me and explained things to me and about me. This is without me saying a single word. What things are and what some of my future will be like. Specific people in my life, using their exact names, and honestly offering me a lot of support and explaining things that absolutely blew my mind, because without me ever knowing it, it made perfect sense that I couldn't doubt it 100%. The whole time it was going on, I had pins and needles all over my body, and all my hair on my body stood up. Also, I had this overwhelming physical feeling of something I can't describe, specifically on my left side, an arm. My left arm had intense goosebumps and hair standing up. My left arm had those goosebumps and standing hair for the rest of the day. I was frozen with my mouth open. The realization after this experience was absolutely mind-blowing. I was very scared and overwhelmed, and I cried. Eventually, I came to extreme joy and gratitude. I knew that after this day my life would never be the same, and anything previously meant absolutely nothing because of the specific things he was told. I have always been anti-organized religion, but now I see that spirituality and God do exist. I've never had a higher power and was never against it. There is no doubt in my mind now that it is completely real. The spirits talked about it. After that, I could not stop thinking about it. I started thinking about my life and realized one synchronicity after another. Hundreds of things that fit perfectly, that were so easy to do. So many things that would not just be coincidences. I knew that it was absolutely insane. If I mentioned this to just anybody, they would probably want me committed. I can't believe such an intense, real miracle has happened to me, and my life will be significantly better for the rest of it. Can anyone relate to this? I hope so. Thanks. Story 3. I, 26 female, have always been skeptical of mediums and connecting to the spirit world. I've roughly been exploring my spirituality, mostly through witchcraft and nature. Roughly 1 week ago, I woke up from the most vivid dream I've ever had. Don't worry, I won't be asking for an interpretation. In the dreams, I saw my great-grandmother who passed almost a decade prior. It was so intense and vivid that I woke up feeling like I had been bathed in sunlight. It was a very warm, loving feeling that I can't fully put into words. I frequently have vivid dreams, but this was different. Different. Is it common for spirits to connect in the dream world? Is this even possible, considering I've never had an experience like this before, and I've always been a bit closed off? I initially shook it off as a dream, but I feel very pulled toward her currently, and it seems different than other dreams I've had. Story 4. I live in an Indian family, and my family always follows all the godly rituals and stuff on all occasions. I myself am an atheist, and I find this a bit ridiculous. With all that effort for what? But now that I look back onto some of the things, I don't doubt the existence of supernatural things one bit. So when I was around 12 years old, one of my cousins, who was 17, fell ill, and my other siblings and I were not allowed to see him. He had been possessed, which was what I came to know recently. I did see a lot of protection charms, mala and murtas, around the house, but I never knew why. Many pandits and gurus were always around, and my cousin's room was locked with a weird thread, almost like a seal. But one day they brought him out and made him sit in the middle of a square pattern with a small flame burning in the middle. I had sneaked out of my room and was hiding and watching the ritual. I kid you not, after chanting some mantras, they literally placed his hand in the fire, and the smoke turned black, and the pattern which was around him started burning red hot. I remember pissing myself and running straight to my room and hiding under my bed crying. I was never allowed to be near the main hall after that. But that night I had a dream, which I remember vividly, and strangely with all the small details. I dreamed that I was in a dark room with my cousin and two other guys, with a small passage. My cousin was completely fine at that moment, and I smiled when I saw him. He said everything is fine now. I gave them what they wanted. It was a hard bargain. And those two silhouettes were just dark figures, and I could just figure out a barely human shape. They saw me and left. My cousin proceeds to say that I must come to his room the next night and break the chain. I kept on asking what chains, but it just faded away. So I woke up the next morning in sweat and again in piss. So the next day I felt a weird tingle in my body, and my dog never left my company, which was odd because he never liked me that much. And the night comes, and it's around 11 or 11:30 p.m., and I gather up my courage to enter the room as soon as I break the thread that I've seen them use to lock the door. A creepy sort of darkness just envelops me, and I just felt dead. Like the very next second, I was going to die of fear. I was crying, and then I hear a whisper. It says that it's fine. I am with you. It was my cousin's voice, and as soon as I enter the room, I kid you not, I see him floating above the bed, a good 3 or 4 feet above the bed. He's floating, bound by chains, which look nearly not of this dimension. Astral chains, you can say, and I look down and I see the same as an astral projection. My cousin asked me to break the chains, and as soon as I touch them, they just dissolve, and he falls back on the bed. I remember him apologizing to me and saying I'm sorry that I had to sell you out. But don't worry, he doesn't harm you, not while he's alone. You can go back now. So I turn and leave the room and go back to my room. That silhouette, yeah, one that was following me. I will go back to my room and see myself laying there, and I am confused AF, but I just touch my face and everything goes pitch black, and I wake up the next morning, and my dog died shortly after that. 4 years later, I am 16 now, suffering from insomnia, periodic anxiety, and the occasional hallucinations. I can't sleep until I completely tire myself out, and I always sleep at 3 or 4 in the morning. I always feel like someone is watching me. I see a black silhouette almost every night, and I can't stop seeing it unless I blast really loud music and distract myself. I hallucinate once a month that I am sitting with that same silhouette. I got some answers to the story, but still, most of it is blank. If anyone knows what this is and why it is happening, please tell me. Story 5. Last night, during my sleep, I encountered an interruption during my dream state, in which a female spirit came to me and spoke that she was determined to make sure I would not succeed in life, and that she would be present always to interfere in my happiness. I tried ignoring her, but she was forceful and would touch me in my dreams to direct my sight toward her. It slowly began escalating as she became louder and more aggressive in tone, and it became too much to bear. I awoke. Now sometimes when I sleep, I wake up short of a jump, especially if I encounter stressful nightmares or obligations in the morning, which is simply a weird reaction, people have noted. When I awoke, it happened in such a fashion. I took a bathroom break and tried going back to bed, but every time I began entering a weary sleep state, she'd appear again and again, even when attempting to lucid dream into something else. Over numerous attempts to sleep, she'd appear again and again, each time waking me up and kicking me out of my dream state, followed by my jump that kicks me awake. Even during my awake state, the environment felt ominous, similar to experiences I had in childhood of feeling the presence of shadows being near me. Eventually, I tried a strategy in my dreams of using the company to acknowledge her presence and distract her. It worked, and in that window of opportunity I compartmentalized her into a small corner of my dream state and trapped her there, if that makes sense. I then proceeded to have a successful sleep shortly after that. As an additional side note, my family is known to be cursed with bad fortune and events surrounding us, and thus I wonder if this spirit lady was the manifestation of all that. She also provided me a name, although I'm not really sure how to spell it, along the which are the lines of Aralf. Any advice for future encounters or ways of helping remove this connection from me? Intense bad mojo was felt whenever I looked at her. Story 6. I want to share an encounter I had. Little backstory here. My girlfriend and I bought a small apartment for us and our daughter back in October 2021. Before we could move in, we had to do some renovations, as laying a new floor, painting the walls, etc. Once we were done, we moved in around the middle of November. It's a small two-bedroom apartment on the first floor of a big block. It's not big, but it's cozy. Just to give you an insight of how the apartment layout is, you come through the back door to a small hallway where you stand in front of the front door. To the back, you see one door in front of you, the daughter's room, three doors to your left. One is the master bedroom, one is the toilet, and one is the bathroom. Next to the front door, there is a small window, and next to that, the door to the dining room, living room, and the kitchen. On the left, there hangs a mirror. So, as most of you would know, when you start renovating on a small window of time, not everything is finished, as was the case with our apartment. The door to go to the dining living room wasn't done, so we moved the door to get it ready for the paint job, etc. We always were asleep with our bedroom door open for our daughter so we can hear her when she wakes up or when she has a bad dream or something. It gives us a safer feeling towards our daughter. But this means I sleep on the door side of the room and I can see into the hallway in the mirror that is in the hallway. So one night I woke up around 2 a.m. and saw that the light in the bathroom was still on. I could see it in the mirror in the hallway. I looked beside me and I saw my girlfriend laying next to me, so I thought maybe one of us forgot to turn off the light in the bathroom when we went to sleep. I thought nothing of it and got up and first went to the toilet, and then I was just sitting there. The door slightly opened, and I looked in the mirror with a sleepy head, and I thought I saw something move in the bathroom under a crack in the door. The door wasn't fully closed, so I thought it's probably one of our cats. As I got off the toilet and went outside the door, I looked again in the mirror and saw a figure in the crack of the door. That's when my heart started racing and pounding faster. I shook my head and tried to brush it off as if I were sleep drunk. So I moved slowly to the bathroom door, and when I got to open the door, at that moment I almost jumped through the ceiling because my two cats were now sitting next to me, staring at the door. I looked down to them and petted them on the head, but they didn't move. Normally they keep that way, just asking for more attention, but they really just were staring blankly at the bathroom door. So that's when I paused for a second to look back in the mirror, and that's when I saw in the crack a face looking at me through the mirror. I rubbed my eyes and turned my head towards the door and opened it with a hard and fast push, and then I opened it. I saw myself standing in the bathroom, looking toward my mirror and sink in the bathroom. That's the moment I fully froze and had the feeling I couldn't move or speak or yell, and my heart racing in my chest. I tried to get it to go away and close my eyes and hope that it was all a dream, but I couldn't do anything. Then it turned on me and just told me, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing the right thing for now. When it finished saying those exact words to me, I could then close my eyes, and then I opened them again, and it was gone. So I turned the lights out as fast as I could. I closed the door, took the cats with me, went back to bed, and then I get under the blankets, and I try to fall asleep as fast as I can. I remember seeing that the alarm clock said it was still 2 a.m., so when I woke up around 7 by the alarm to get up with my girlfriend to take our daughter to school, So I didn't tell my girlfriend anything about this encounter because I thought I was just having a bad dream or something. Because in the past I have been to a sleep clinic because I dream a lot and always felt tired after I woke up, even though I've had hours of sleep. They blamed it because I lay on my back, etc. But anyway, back to the story. So I woke up, did my morning routine with my girlfriend and daughter, and we went off to bring our little girl to school. In the car, that's when I knew it wasn't a dream and it was really happened because my girlfriend was saying to me, "Honey, did you leave the lights on again in the bathroom? Because I saw you getting up last night to go and put them out." I looked at her with a pale face and just nodded. I didn't tell her anything because I didn't want her to think I was going crazy, maybe. For the record, I do not and did not take any medication, nor did I have any alcohol or such. But yeah, that was the first encounter I had. Now we fast forward a couple of weeks. So a few weeks later, I was up late because I had this late shift, working 2 p.m. until 10 p.m. So I came home around 10:30 and everyone was already asleep because my girlfriend had to wake up early to do the early shift at 5 a.m. I had my dinner, as usual, when we stood ready for me at the microwave and sat behind my computer to play video games and watch some YouTube videos at about 12:30. Then I went to bed, but first I would always go check on our daughter and give her a kiss, and then I know everything is okay, and I went to do my routine to go to bed. So I got next to my girlfriend, cuddled her very gently, and fell asleep almost instantly. I was sleeping pretty well at around 4 a.m. I woke up and I was lying on my back to the door, and I still had my arm around my girlfriend. I gave her a kiss on the back of the head and turned around, and that's when I saw, because the door was always open, there was a light in the living room. I didn't think much of it, so I stood up, went to the toilet, looked back at my girlfriend in bed through the mirror in the hallway, and then I heard a sound coming from the kitchen. Then my heart started pounding again, and the first incident, which at this point I had actually forgotten. But then it came back to me at the point, and I knew instantly that it was not one of my cats, because where I stood up when I go to the toilet, I saw them both laying on the foot of the bed. So I took the first thing that I could get my hands in the hallway, which was a broom, and then when it was as silent as I can, I went to the kitchen ready to attack this time. When I came around the table at the opening of the kitchen, I was ready to swing it like a real champ, and when I did, I stopped immediately because it was my girlfriend who was standing there, fully dressed for work and shaking me because I was almost attacking her. She looked scared at me and asked if everything was okay with me. I looked at her and immediately touched her to see if she was real, and she said she was, and I asked her what she was doing in the middle of the night. She looked at me confused and told me that she was getting ready to go to work, and then I ran to the bedroom, and went to look who I kissed and who was next to me in the bed, but it was empty. She followed me and asked me what I was doing. When I told her, she freaked out herself and told me that she was already up for half past 4, so nobody was next to me since then. But I was sure that I was still, to this day, that something or somebody was laying next to me, and she looked exactly as my girlfriend. Until this day, nothing ever happened like that, except sometimes I have a feeling that someone or something is on my terrors at night. And when I have my headphones on and I'm playing a game or doing some work at my computer and everyone is asleep, I can still hear my name called out called out to me through my headphones. So yeah, guys, this is a little story of my own, and one of the many reasons why I'm into such things. Story 7. I was out with my dog at 2 a.m. this morning, and as soon as we got down the stairs at the front of our flat block, he looked to the left and started barking and whining. On the left of our block, directly in the wind at our street, sits a pre-Victorian cemetery with burials from as early as 1780 to 1850. Directly in front of our block sits an ancient church with a burial chamber on it. My dog has expressed similar behavior on one other occasion in the last year, but I couldn't see anything that time. This time I looked up the street in the direction that he was barking at, and I saw a childlike figure around the height of my waist, wearing a one-piece red outfit with ginger hair and pale white skin. Due to the distance, I was unable to make out fine details. However, if I'm to believe what I saw, it was a young girl around 6 or 7. By the time I had blinked, she was gone. I've always been fairly spiritual with a person, but never experienced anything exciting before that I could recall, so I guess I'm just wondering if this means anything. While I'm not religious, once I got back inside my flat, I said a prayer for the girl, wishing her peace and comfort. So I suppose I'm only wondering if there is anything else that I could or should have done. Thanks for any responses. Story 8. If you have been to the Balkans or lived anywhere near there, you probably know that it isn't all as aesthetic as the internet portrays it to be. At the time I was 17 and was going to a friend's place to smoke weed at about 3:30 to 4 a.m. in the morning. I was walking in some back streets. If you know, you know, but it was those streets that were the communist apartment blocks. There were barely any lights working on the street, and I was walking alone. Going around the cars parked in front of the blocks, I go past an alley. The girl is probably around 8 to 10 years old, standing in the middle of it with the ball in her hands. As I passed, I had to go back to see if I saw that right. I go up to her and ask her what she's doing out so late, as any sane person would ask why they see a small child in the middle of a back street alone. The girl just stares at me. I couldn't really see her face, as there were no lights, and my vision wouldn't go beyond my feet. I go down to my knees and ask her what her name is and where she lives. The girl continues to stare at me and says nothing. At this point, I'm a bit annoyed, and I figure she finds me scary, as a lot of small children do when they see a barely functioning person with blood-red eyes. I take my iPhone 7 out of my pocket and turn on the flashlight. The girl is gone. There's no sign of her. I figured I just hallucinated the whole thing since it happened to me a lot back then. I continued on my way to my friend's. A couple of minutes later, I started hearing footsteps behind me. I turned around and no one was there. I looked around a bit, but I saw nothing. I once again continued and started hearing whispers. I'm not talking about your average whispering. The whispers were clear as day, but at the same time I barely understood them. I thought it was once again my imagination, so I lowered myself to the ground and covered my ears. I used to get a lot of voices and stuff in my head due to some mental issues. When the whispers finally stopped, I got up again and saw that behind me was the girl from before. Only this time I saw her face clearly. Her eyes were black, clear black. She had a vein-covered mouth and was staring at me. She was in a black dress and a pink jacket. She was holding the same ball from the first time I saw her. I looked at her for just a second, but to this day I remember it was like it was last week. I barely ever remember stuff from when I'm at high, but I do remember this even 5 years later. I started crying and had a full-on mental breakdown. I sat in the middle of the road, hugging my legs, and refused to open my eyes for a good 2 minutes until a lady and a man came, who I'm guessing lived in the apartment block. I refused to move for about half an hour. At the end, the cops were called, and I spent the night at the police station till my stepdad came and picked me up. I'm almost completely sure that really happened, but it wasn't just my imagination. 2 months after that incident, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia and autism, so the people who believe me are my boyfriend and my mom. Story 9. This is my first time posting on Reddit. So when I was 17 years old, I was coming back home at about 2 a.m. from my friend's house, and I walked into an alley between houses. The alley was really bright and well lit, and I was holding my phone listening to music without headphones. I didn't have any. I was singing and dancing. No, I wasn't high or drunk. I walked over a sewer hatch. After about 10 feet or so, I heard a scary scream. I turned to see what was happening, and suddenly the alley was very dark, not pitch black, but significantly darker. I saw a huge shadow coming towards me, so I ran as fast as I can, and in my panic, I fell down, and the shadow caught up to me, and I started trembling on the ground and screaming after what felt like eternity, but it was really probably about 5 seconds. The alley went back to being bright and well lit. I couldn't believe what had just happened to me. I went straight home, and after that, my struggle with the paranormal stuff began. Story 10. So, long story short, for the backstory, I went through a traumatic experience where I got laced and my senses went into hyperdrive, and then I started meeting spirits and seeing them after having an out-of-body experience where it felt like my spirit guide took control of my body until I met a feminine spirit who showed herself to look like an ancient woman but kept her features except her hair hidden. She revealed herself to be the Queen of Sheba and explained to me in the Akashic realm, the V8 lines, and much more about my soul contract. She claimed to be the embodiment of the divine feminine or God. After our conversation, I allowed her to possess my body, and she was very protective of me to the point that others would feel they were in danger, even if they were thinking about harming me. I don't know if she's good or evil or the divine spirit, because I tend not to read too much into things. Do you have any thoughts? Well, there you go. There's some very interesting stories there. I hope you have enjoyed them. If you did, leave a like, maybe leave a comment down below. Go watch another few videos. No matter what you do, I do appreciate you taking the time to listen and watch this. And we'll talk to you next time. Bye.